Once it starts, I can't stop it.
No, it's happening.
It's a runaway train.
Stop saying horrible things about everyone. Jeez. I like that sweatshirt. Leeds. That is a good looking Leeds sweatshirt.
You like this?
I do.
I appreciate it.
I like the look of the sweatshirt that has the different color strings coming down.
Well, you know what's crazy?
That's
Jack,
always
Jack
a good
also
look.
said he really liked the sweatshirt. Yeah.
I mean, that's not a Jack thing to do.
I
like
agree.
this
That's
sweatshirt,
why I
too.
was.
We're just gonna be complimenting each
Yeah.
other. On their
I got my
outfits.
Mike Schmidt on.
It's a nice
shirt on
sweatshirt.
underneath, always good.
Yeah.
Rock it.
It's a very James outfit today. This is classic.
Basically
James.
what I wear every day. Got my green shoes. I have enjoyed the green shoes because I'm always repping the Eagles at all
I have
times.
noticed that
Yeah.
you've had those on for a while.
Yeah, no big deal to me.
all
Always showing
right.
pride in our team. No big deal.
It's the time of the year to do
You're
it.
damn right, buddy, because they're gonna win the Super Bowl. Let's go! All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. It means the world. All right. Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Parks Casino and Sportsbook app. Eliot Shorr-Parks, James Seltzer with you. Day 11.
Crazy. Good job
Barrel
remembering
towards
on
it.
your
Thank
own.
you. I didn't have
Good job
any.
remembering on
Normally
your
I'd be like,
own.
what
Yeah.
day is it?
Yeah.
I came prepared today. I've got a list of books to talk about at the end.
We
I'm
have a
so
book.
ready. We're going to do a little
And
Internet
ironically,
Excellence.
my final thoughts a list as well.
How about that?
And our pods a list.
And we are big fans of lists.
I
Not
love a good
all
list.
lists, like
Not
the
the player-
NFL players
they
list,
just
which
did
is
that.
the worst list that has ever happened in the history of the planet.
I love that
A
list.
nonsensical
Well,
list.
good news. It's coming out.
Tyreek Hill, the best player in football. They really nailed it last year, didn't they?
It's a bad
Thank
one.
you for that one. Good job,
Yeah.
guys.
Well, to be fair, they
Over
also put
Patrick
Carson into
Mahomes
one.
and Josh Allen.
Yeah.
That played out well. And Lamar Jackson. That played out great.
It's almost like lists are wrong. It's the only list to ever get something wrong. The players are the only ones.
Consistently
Yes.
awful. Yes.
You don't wear contacts, correct?
No, I don't wear glasses.
Tucker, are you a contact guy?
I do.
I slept in my contacts last night for
don't
the
know what that
first
means.
time in.
Sounds terrible.
So did Cameron
Dude, let
leave
me
his
tell you.
contacts in for like 6 weeks? Is that bad?
Okay, so I'm going to talk to the camera about
He sleeps in them. and
that.
stuff.
When I was in just out of college, I would say maybe a little older than that. I went through like what I would do with him, or like
what he
like-
would do.
Yes, like
You
I
just
would
don't wanna
go
take
a
him out.
month, like not a month, but like 3 weeks, same pair in every night. And I will say, like my eyes are fine, so there was, knock on wood.
It's not good for you though. is
Oh
it?
my god, it's awful.
I
for
would
you.
imagine it's
Yeah,
bad for you.
you're not supposed to do it. You are like, and so I haven't slept in my contacts in forever. Last night I fell asleep on the couch, went upstairs, went right to sleep. I woke up this morning and I'm like, what's in my eye? Dude, my eyes still feel like I cannot believe I used to do this so much. I don't know how I survived 6 weeks like that.
So I can't imagine having to do the contact thing.
So the
all
reason
time.
I would
It
keep
does
him
seem like
in-
such a bear,
So the reason I would keep him in is because I used to say to myself, well, what if I can't get him in tomorrow? Like I'm gonna need my
because you
eyes
hated
tomorrow.
having to do the thing.
Yes, but now once I just like got used to it, I put my contacts in like 2 seconds.
I'm
Like,
sure,
it's no
yeah.
problem now. But like, yeah, so
It is a wild thing. I don't think, to your point, and by the way, I don't think I gave you enough credit with your vitamins gummy
Thank
thing
you.
because we've got Zoe to eat these like gummies that have vegetables in them.
And by the way, I want vitamin recommendations.
they're
if anyone has them.
please, but
Yeah.
they're the only way we can get Zoe to eat vegetables. Like that's it.
Right.
She'll eat fruit. She will not touch a vegetable, but she loves these little. They're called groons. They're these little like vegetables in a gummy, and she eats them. So like, giving you credit there. I
Yeah.
don't think we give enough credit to what an amazing thing contacts are. This
Well, it's funny
little
you say
thing
that.
you can slide over your eye. It goes on your eye. You can function with it, and it helps
is
you
crazy.
see. I
It-
know,
it's
like
like
there's
a-
laser eye surgery. I know it gets more amazing, but just in general, I don't think contacts have ever.
I would
gotten the
almost
credit
argue
they deserve.
contacts are more
Amazing in a
impressive
way,
than
right?
surgery.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a creation.
It's like in
thing.
1970, I don't know when contacts were invented, but like if in 1970 you
love
saw
how he
that,
I love how he speaks confidently, pulling a year out. and
I
he's like,
feel pretty
don't actually
confident there
know.
weren't contacts in 1970. You should look it up. But I would.
Oh, Tucker should look it up.
All right,
We're
let me
doing a
guess.
podcast. I love having Tucker here to look.
This
things up.
has
This
to
is
be
great.
like not.
Yeah,
prior
let's
to
each take a
two-
guess. I will say
Yeah.
they were invented in
Wow.
Don't say.
19.
Wow, the wow.
I
is-
was going to go earlier than you to begin with, so I
Okay.
think the wow is related. To that. I'm going to say 1947.
no shot. I'm gonna say 1985.
Okay.
So, but first, make sure you feel like this is a good answer and not just.
So the technical answer is the first contact lens was created in 1880.
I was
Okay,
going
yeah,
to say
see,
it's probably
like,
even
yeah.
further
But
back.
that doesn't
but that's
count.
what I was answering.
Disposable soft contact lens, like what we wear, was created in 1987.
Okay, so that was a pretty good guess by you. So we were
Robbie.
guessing different things. I was guessing when was the first
Yes.
contact lens. I wouldn't have guessed that far back, but I thought it'd be older. Look at you,
I
1987.
was 2 years off. Pretty good.
I was alive for 6 years and they didn't have contacts for
I was
people.
only 2 years.
That's crazy.
It's crazy to think in 1800 someone was like, "Look what I got."
Oh,
Put
I
it in
know.
your eye, be like,
Well,
"Get
that's
outta here,
truly
bro."
amazing.
According
Yeah.
to this, Da Vinci sketched out an idea.
yeah.
of
Of
What
course
what
he did.
what
1508.
fake news website is this?
No, Da Vinci.
You saying Da Vinci invented the first contact?
Da Vinci?
He sketched it.
Dude,
Which, like,
you know,
also, like, is sketching that big
sketch
of a
whatever,
deal?
but you know how many things Da Vinci was like way out in front of him in the world? Like Da Vinci was like talking about airplanes before they exist, all kinds of stuff that Da Vinci was like Nostradamus, like whatever.
That's fair, but I don't think sketching a contact should be credited with inventing the
But
contact.
if you no, I agree. But if
Okay.
you catch something and say you could put this on your eye and it can magnify your vision
that's
in the
crazy.
whatever it was, 15,
Right.
was Da Vinci 1500s or something, I would guess somewhere in there.
Yeah, 1508.
Yeah. So, by the way, no big deal. I mean, that's pretty freaking amazing.
It's pretty crazy. I agree. Yeah.
Don't rip Da Vinci in this.
I'm
It's a pro Da
honestly,
Vinci pod.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
a
much
big
about Da
time pro
Vinci,
Da Vinci
but
pod.
I will be pro if you guys
among
are.
the probably the most impressive humans who ever lived. You know, no big deal.
Yes. Well, I'd have to think about that.
I mean, he did happen before 2000, so I know
Right,
it's not
exactly.
really your
Like,
wheelhouse
yeah.
here.
Well, with historical people, I'm willing to go further back.
Good, I appreciate
Yeah.
that. All right, let's get to inner excellence, then we'll dive
Yeah,
in. We're
let's
gonna
dive
do.
into it.
Figured last week we did the 5 keys to the game on Thursday. So guess what we're doing until the Super Bowl? 5 keys to the game on Thursday. Elliot, no pressure. Make sure you have your 5 keys ready.
And I feel like between the contacts, like just not having a great start to the day, like I feel like I could use
Oh,
something.
no, this is tough. You need a little inner excellence.
Do you want me to do it today? Like, how do we want to do
I'll
it?
do it. I'll
All right.
switch it up.
Yeah, I think every other day.
Page.
Have you ever held a book?
Very
Do you want to do the Kindle version?
funny.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I said I got just to give you like a little preview, and I won't go through all of them, but just so you get a concept of how much work I put to the book list. Ready? Look at that. I tried to just pick my favorites from the last like year or two.
So I'm very excited for it in the way that like
I'm gonna
you're one of
rattle
my
through
best friends and you put a lot of work into it. But like in terms of, I'm not gonna know any of these books.
them.
Like,
No, you won't. But
yeah,
it'll be
yeah.
good for the listeners if you want to
Yeah.
read. All right, here we go. Inner excellence.
okay, let's hear it.
The ego has certain needs. And when those needs aren't met, we get embarrassed, offended, or irritated. The ego says we need to always appear graceful, smart, and successful, not embarrassed, respected, not offended, and comfortable, not irritated. That's why the 5 factors of the affluenza virus are so attractive.
Whoa, didn't see that coming.
Me
yeah.
neither, man.
Yeah.
I'm almost done. Because they seem to increase how smart and successful we appear. We can look more beautiful, gain more respect, and be more comfortable, or so the ego will tell us.
So
Deep
Interesting.
stuff from Jim.
so the ego, right? I do think everybody
Getting
has
into
an
Freud here.
yeah. I think everybody has an ego, even if they don't want to admit it. And
Yeah,
I think
Freud
sometimes
said
it's-
it. Yes,
Yeah, I think
yes.
it's important.
The ego, right?
Yeah, I think it's important to admit sometimes like you need your ego.
It,
stroked,
whatever.
too.
Yes, ego part.
You know, it's interesting that that's actually a good segue if we want to do it. But like, well,
Talk
do
a
you have
little
thoughts on it
ego.
first? I mean,
On the reading?
yeah, just like,
No, I agree. I think ego and controlling your ego and getting your, being able
Yeah.
to not let your ego control you or push you in certain directions or whatever is a very important thing to,
Yeah.
to be able to, as a
I agree with
human,
that.
to be able to manage. So to speak.
so yesterday, AJ Brown spoke about. the
Yes, he
book.
did. Can I just
Seemed
give
a
you a
little
little credit?
not in a great mood.
Can I give you a little credit real
Yes,
quick?
I would like that.
We
Well, my
play.
ego would like that.
Yeah, hey,
Yeah.
right, I
Yes,
right
yeah.
in your ego right now.
Yeah,
And also
exactly.
to this,
Feed it.
well, the afternoon show has this thing that I'm not the biggest fan of, but
Right,
whatever.
the
The
insider of the
insider of the year, because
Yeah.
there's only one insider here that matters. There's an insider of the
You
year,
don't
and it's
tell
Elliot,
me.
done. Like there's
Yeah.
it should be the list is one. It's
Yep.
Eliot Shorr-Parks. But I want to give you credit, like just insider of the year stuff, whatever. Like we play so many clips of players talking or coaches talking on the air. I feel like 95% of the time there's a clip that we play.
It
It's
is
important.
crazy.
It's you asking the freaking question.
And it feels like it's not intentional.
It's every time. So
Yeah. Thank you.
great job this year,
Well-
man. I really do. Just anecdotally playing all that audio, like the amount of times that you asking the question is like overwhelming.
Well, I'll say this. I came into this year trying to be better at it. And I feel like
I
I've
think
gotten
you've done a
better at it. Yeah,
fantastic
it was my
job.
goal for this year. So
And I think you're really good at like the reacting when he's like that, going back to the famous AJ game passing thing where he's like passing, you're like passing, like just like kind of
Right.
letting him go, like reacting in a good way. Anyway, you asked
I
the
appreciate
question,
it, yes.
and AJ, go ahead.
So AJ definitely seemed, and I don't mean it like the media, like he just definitely seemed like he was not happy with the reaction to the book thing.
And my guess, for what it's worth, is we had the public reaction. My guess is that the NFL has jumped in here a little bit too, and that there's some sort of because no matter what, like we're okay with it. We have no problem. I don't think the NFL likes the image of a player reading a book. on the side.
Interesting. I hadn't thought or heard of this.
So
you
I
think
would
that-
guess there's behind the scenes stuff where AJ has kind of been scolded. If I had to guess, just to
Interesting.
guess, just throwing that out
All right.
there. but whether it's from the Eagles internally because of the NFL or whatever, I'm sure the Eagles didn't like it. Like, we're okay with it. I think Nick's okay with it. Like he said, Nick had an amazing answer.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah,
perfect answer, perfect way to defend your player. But I don't think look, we talked about it. Like it was a thing. Like in like a perfect world, we're not talking about a player reading a book on the side. It's like we're just not.
My opinion. I think the Eagles are perfectly okay with it. That's just my.
I don't think the NFL likes it. I feel pretty confident.
I'd be interested to know. I mean, like
for what it's worth, we had Kelsey on, and Kelsey said the same thing. So
he doesn't think the NFL likes
he thinks the NFL did not like it.
Wow, that's so lame of the NFL. If so, I mean, it really is.
NFL
like
doesn't like. I mean,
but it's not like disrespectful of AJ. If anything, to be just really quick, to be honest, like this is something they should embrace. Like a player reading, like I just feel like there's a lot of positive from this. Like, look, AJ reading a book, doing what he thinks is good for him. Like, I'm not saying, I know you agree with me on this, but I'm saying if the NFL is actually mad about this, I think that
just think about it this way. And I know that it's fine. He says he does every game. How many times have we ever in our lives watching NFL football, seen a player reading a book on the sidelines? It's never been caught. I've never heard of this.
I agree. It's
so new. No matter how much they say it's like this is all the time or this or that. Like it is a unique thing that we're talking about that we've never seen before in an NFL game. And it's not like, again, I personally, I don't have a problem with it.
Right.
Do what you need to do to get ready to play. But there are people who have a problem with it. And there are people who think it's a bad look when he has one catch and the whole thing going on where he's just sitting there reading his book. Like, again, I'm saying my issue, I don't have an issue, but I do think that it is again, as it's the only time we've ever seen it, I think the NFL, it's not a great look for the NFL.
So normally I'm of the camp of, look, if ever, like with the Jalen and Nick stuff, I'm like, just say nice things about each other to shut people up, right? Like, it's not worth it. I hope AJ and the Eagles don't give in on this one. Like, I hope it's not AJ can't bring his book on the sideline.
I think it would be AJ don't be reading a paperback book on the sideline.
Well, then what's the point of bringing it out there?
My point is put the passages on a tablet or do something else or whatever where people can't look at it and be like, oh, he's reading. I don't think they care about him reading the book.
Right.
I think they care about the look of him reading the book.
I just think that
it's the same thing with what you just said where how is it any different from you saying that Jalen or Nick should just say something?
No, I'm saying
it's
on
for
this
the optics
one,
of it. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the optics.
Yeah. But I think this one is not about, like, the difference between the Jalen and the AJ thing is it was causing drama where it's like, do they like each other? We're talking about all the time. Like,
but this did cause, I mean, could have, like, there are people who believe that like Rhea on the morning show believes that he was reading as a spike to Jalen. She believes it. She still believes it. She doesn't care what AJ says.
Right.
She's saying that was him saying, I'm not getting the ball. I'm not happy with Jalen. I'm going to read on the sidelines. I don't believe that.
Right.
But that is a thing that there's a portion of people who believe that. And especially nationally, like you hear a lot of the national people talk about it. Like they all think it is like not okay for the most part.
I agree. I hope he doesn't give in on it. I just view it differently than Nick.
My point is, I don't know.
The Nick and Jalen thing.
This might be something way above his head where they're like, you can't do that.
Or it honestly might have just ruined it for him anyway. Like it could just be he liked to have it there.
I think he should be, if anything, looking at Eagles fans who made this guy the #1 seller on Amazon and being like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so he did talk about that. He did say that. People are sending him books. He had a few books at his locker.
Cool.
So like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's all good. I just he did not seem happy with the reaction. Just putting that out there.
Oh, well.
Yeah. No, just saying.
Again, and with AJ, we get to the point where it's like, and I have no problem with this stuff. And again, especially the book, but it's like at a certain point, he's got to understand that like he does keep instigating.
Well, he talked about this yesterday. He said something to the effect of sometimes he forgets what a big impact he can have. And I think there's probably truth to that. I believe him, but it is crazy that he could it's just got to be nice for him to be able to forget that he's like one of the most influential people in the city in a way.
I don't know. I don't know if he forgets that.
I don't know. I mean, we can move on from the book.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't even what we did. But
and again, I'm fine with it personally. I don't think that it's something we're going to continue to see. If I had to,
I'll be curious to see.
Yeah.
I mean, this weekend's a big one for it. Like,
if he's on the read on the side, they'll look for it.
Exactly.
This weekend,
right. That book will be looked for.
Thing. The camera will be looking for the books this weekend. Let's see what happens.
I think even pregame, like they'll be like, "Where's the book at?" Like, the book will be a famous. Book.
I agree.
It'll be a story.
This guy, can you just? That's another thing. You're just going about your business, and then all of a sudden, like,
I know. I'd be curious to know how many he's actually sold. Because apparently going from like he was 550,000 to
it's more about the jump.
Yeah, it's more. Yeah,
he wasn't actually the most sold book.
Like if you just had to guess, we'll never know the number, but You think more than 1,000?
Yeah, I
think
would
so?
guess like
Okay.
a few thousand. But you're right. That's not like
I doubt it's like 400,000 or
No.
whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's a book.
It's a shame. I
Just
mean,
kidding.
everyone should read books.
Yeah, I agree.
Goldberg's book club
I
starting
agree.
later this
Yes.
show.
Yes.
All right, let's get in. Let's get your 5 keys. Let's
Just
dive
the
into this.
only last thing I was gonna say just before that is just AJ didn't practice yesterday. Are you worried about that at all?
Look, I think he'll play in these games.
Yeah.
I am macro sense concerned about the fact that he has a knee thing, but it seems like he can play. It seems like he can function out there. So like I'm not like overly concerned,
Yeah.
but just in general, the fact that he's got a knee thing through the playoffs, I wish he didn't.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like overly concerned.
I would say I'm less concerned than I was last week.
Yeah,
Now that we've
absolutely.
seen him
After
go
last
through
week,
it.
I
Yeah.
think you feel like, all right, this is the way they're managing it. Look, I don't think he needs to practice. You know,
Yeah. You would
So-
like him to, but yes, I agree.
Yeah,
At this
you know
point,
what I mean.
it's not great.
All right, let's get to the keys.
All right. So number one for me.
Key
and
matchups, by the way.
Key matchups.
I should
Key matchups.
rephrase.
Keys to winning the game.
Yes.
To win the game, they're gonna have to win these matchups.
Exactly.
Is one way to put it. So I'm doing Jordan Mailata versus Jared Verse. And I'll start by saying, after they played the Rams last time, Jordan Mailata was on the Players Lounge the night after. So, Sunday night they play in LA, flies back. I have done a lot of shows with Jordan, talked to Jordan a lot. I've never really heard him talk about a player the way he talked about Jared Verse. Like, he was very like he was tough. Like, and not so much that he was tough to stop, because so there's 22 pass rush snaps Jared Verse had, and Milo only gave up 1 hurry, not a sack, not a hit. So he did well with them, but he was just very impressed by Jared Verse, like the toughness, the personality, just like that Verse wasn't afraid at all to go against him. Like, I would just, it stuck with me how highly he spoke of Jared Verse. Now, it's not like Jared Verse is a secret. He led the league in pressures this year with 84. So
he's going to win Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
I love Quinion.
he's going to win it.
He was
right?
like 6
Well,
in sacks.
I could be wrong, but I think Quinion's not even a finalist. I saw someone tweet out yesterday the 7 finalists for like the Pepsi Rookie of the Year.
I didn't even know they had it out.
Maybe it's not a real Rookie
Yeah,
of the
I
Year.
don't know. But either way, I think
Right. Jared Verse is going to win.
is going to win it.
Yeah. But like, when we've talked about the Rams this week, what we consistently say is like, it's a defensive line. It's a defensive line. And we'll talk about other ones in a second, but Jared Verse is like the key in a lot of ways. So the good news is whenever we do a game and we talk about an edge rusher, you can feel confident the Eagles tackles will shut them down. And I do think Mailata will win this matchup, but think about that game on Sunday night. Like, Verse was all over the place against the Vikings. So key number one, and I think
he was the best player on the field.
Yeah. And like Jordan Mailata, again, because of how highly he spoke of him, I think he's well aware of how tough a matchup this is. I bet he's excited for it, but it's a huge one. So Jordan Mailata versus Jared Verse.
Yeah, as you've talked about, chronicled, the strength of the defense for this Rams is clearly their D-line. It's going to be one of the matchups of the game is just the O-line versus the D-line. And they're good, but I think we're better. I don't, to your point, you always say this, like, I think you have to go into games feeling like the Eagles offensive line is going to succeed.
No matter
what.
Like,
it's just the way it is now, until they don't.
All right, so this matchup I'm worried about. I'm curious where you fall on it. So Puka Nacua versus Darius Slay.
So before you even get into whoever he's first,
right?
I think Puka Nacua is the most underrated great receiver in the NFL. Like, I think there's an argument he's not Justin Jefferson, but I think he's like
there, yeah.
Next. Like,
he's
Puka,
awesome. He's tough. He can do it all. Yeah,
awesome. And I don't think we mention him when we talk about Jefferson and Jamar Chase and AJ Brown. These guys, like, Puka's in that class.
Yes.
And I don't think he gets put in that class enough. Not to mention the blocking and all the other stuff he does. But Puka Nacua, to me, is the best player on the Rams. He's the most dangerous player on the Rams. He is the player I'm most scared of on the Rams. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So here's the concerning thing to me. Now, Puka Nacua lines up all over the field.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like he lines up exclusively on this side. But if you just go by the numbers, he mostly lines up on the outside, and he mostly lines up on the right side of the field. Darius Slay lines up defensively on the left side. So the main matchup will be Darius Slay versus Puka Nacua. So I think you go into this and feel like, well, Quinion versus Puka, but like, that's not really how it'll play out. And also, if I'm the Rams, I'm lining him up across from Darius Slay instead of Quinion.
Yeah.
Right? Not to mention it could be Isaiah Rodgers if Slay leaves the field.
Yeah,
so
especially as Slay's been in and out and all that stuff. Yeah.
Now, I don't think Puka played Puka did play.
He did play, but he had just come back from injury or something like that.
Yeah. So they had a weird year with their skill guys. Like, a lot of players
they
in
had
and out.
A few games where they had neither.
Tyler
of those
Higbee only
guys.
played in 3 games this year.
Yep.
I think Cooper Kupp maybe played in 11.
Kyron's really the only one. I think he missed a game, but Kyron's the only one
he's
who's
played
really
all
been
year.
there. Yeah.
So the Slay versus Puka
Kyron's better than
Nacua.
you thought, by the way, right?
He's better
He's
than I
not
thought.
great, but he's better than you thought.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
like
he's
a good running.
he's definitely a good running back for sure. I just don't think he's in the class.
No, he's
of
not
like
Saquon
Josh
or Derrick Henry or
Jacobs.
Jacobs. He's like the next step down. For
Yes,
Josh
agreed.
Jacobs.
He's more of a DeAndre Swift to me. Better than DeAndre
I think he's
Swift,
better than DeAndre Swift.
but he's
Yeah.
closer to that.
I think he's like
than
a Joe Mixon, like that
Yes,
level. Of
I
guy.
agree.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon's a good one. So Slay versus Puka, like if I'm the Rams, I would line him up across from him. I would try to get at him. Now the good news is it looks like the weather's gonna be pretty gross. Like
Yeah,
it's gonna be
so
windy.
the snow. It might
30% chance of snow.
Okay.
So
But either way, cold
or
gross,
rain.
and for what it's worth, the Rams this season have played one potential game where it could have been cold. Like
Really?
actually really cold. They played December 22nd against the Jets in New York. Other than that, their last game on the East Coast outside was at the end of November against New England. So maybe it's a little cold in that, but not like now cold. Like they have felt nothing like what it'll feel like on Sunday this season, just as a group.
I'm a little surprised they're not practicing here. Like I guess it makes sense you want to stay in LA.
I am so with you. And the Eagles are outside practicing in this weather.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, it's such a
dumb
thing,
cold.
dude.
Yeah.
It's dumb cold. We saw, and granted, this is like the coldest or fifth coldest game ever or whatever. And it's an extreme example.
Right.
But we all watched that playoff game last year with the Chiefs and the Dolphins.
Yeah.
The Dolphins wanted nothing to do with that.
And I think the Rams will be more
there.
like
and I
that.
think it'll be like, it won't be that cold, but I think it'll be like, they're going to get on that field and be like, damn, dude.
So I had a random thought this morning because it's supposed to snow, shocker, for the Bills game, and it's going to feel like -3. Bills, Ravens, right? Do you think the Bills have never won a Super Bowl because they also have to battle the weather every year in the playoffs? Like, think about it.
No.
Other teams that
I don't
try to
think
win a
that.
Super Bowl don't have to deal with the cold.
I don't think that.
I think it's worth considering. I mean,
they lost that great game in Kansas City. Like,
right.
I mean,
No, I'm not saying that's the main reason, but I'm saying I think when you look at the fact the Bills have never won a Super Bowl.
I think the bigger reason is that the Bills have had bad teams for the vast majority of their
look,
time.
there's a lot of reasons, but they're also battling the weather in a way other teams are not.
It doesn't do it.
I mean,
for
well,
me.
it's undisputed.
I mean, but okay, it's almost as cold in other places on the East Coast. East Coast teams win. Like the Giants have won 4 Super Bowls.
But the
like,
Buffalo's way colder.
It's colder.
Yeah.
But yes, but like I just don't think. I think it's more the groups of teams that they went to.
Well, of course,
they went to 4. They went to 4 straight Super Bowls. You could have won any of those. They could have won if Scott Norwood kicks a field goal,
but they didn't.
Yeah, but I don't think it has to do with the cold. At this point, they
I think it makes it harder for them.
I don't.
I don't.
I think it makes it harder for other teams coming in there to win. Like
hard for those teams too, but also harder for the Bills.
Why though? How?
Because they have to play in elements that other playoff teams don't.
What does that matter though?
Because it makes it tougher for them.
But they're still playing the game in the same place as the other
team. I get that, but I'm saying like if you're
so why is it tougher than next week? You're not. It doesn't last. It's just for that day. It's not
right,
like you.
But it makes it tougher to win that game. I think when it's snowing and cold, it's harder to win.
Even it's the same for both teams. What are you talking
but
about?
Like other teams don't have to deal with it on their way to the Super Bowl the way the Bills do.
I don't understand your point. This makes
no sense. You're saying it's like an exhaustion thing?
Yeah, I'm saying
you're saying that playing in the cold makes you tired for the next week.
No,
that I don't agree with.
I'm saying they play. I would bet they played more weather games in the playoffs than any other franchise.
So
maybe the Patriots are probably
I don't understand your point though. So the point is, so for the individual weather game they're playing, both teams it's the same, right? Like it's hard. It's as hard for either to win the game theoretically. Like certain things are, maybe it's a more physical team or this, that, whatever. But like, so if it's not the individual game itself, they could either win or lose. Same, whether it's weather's the same for everyone. The only thing you could be saying is that they will play worse the next week because they had to play in the weather the week before.
Let's say they have home field advantage, right? We don't have to keep going about this. But if they have home field advantage in the playoffs and they play every game at home that year, right? And let's say it's cold because it's Buffalo and it's snowing. They play every game in the cold that year. Let's say the other team beats them the first week. Then they go play somewhere else that's not cold, right? Like the Bills consistently have to play in freezing cold weather every week when they're in the playoffs at home.
I think it's an advantage for them.
You view it as an advantage, and that's an argument.
Because
but I'm saying,
they're home,
but
and
they also
playing in the cold. I don't understand this at all.
Because it's harder to play in the cold. Like it's just harder to play when it's cold.
If you're saying it because it's harder to play in the cold, you're less good the following week because you had to play in the cold. Like maybe there's something there. But in terms of the individual game itself, the cold is the same for both teams.
Right. But they are playing in more cold.
All right, we got to move on. This is the dumbest. Do you understand it though? Do you have any idea what he's trying to say?
No.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure I'm not crazy.
So we can move on.
All right. Matthew Stafford 1-8 and weather.
Yeah,
games,
I meant to say that. Kyle Quinn was just telling me about that.
Right.
That's something.
Weather seems.
It's not nothing.
Right.
I'll say that.
All right.
Also, someone who has played in a dome or LA his entire career as his home stadium,
which is crazy. All right, Nolan Smith versus Rob Havenstein. So Havenstein, I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that correct.
He's been there forever. I haven't seen him.
Yeah.
Havenstein.
Havenstein. So I was close enough. He did not play in the first game against the Eagles. He is a good player. Nolan Smith has been so big in the turnaround for the defensive line this season. I would actually argue, like, once he started playing well, that's when the whole line kind of took off.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think he can win this matchup, and I expect him to. But if Nolan Smith gets neutralized, like, I think things kind of start to fall apart a little bit for the line.
You don't think Bryce Huff can come in and save the day?
No, I don't
Is
think
that what
that's-
you're saying?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
His one snap
His
won't
one
make a
snap.
difference in the game.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Vic
my God,
Fangio was
Bryce
asked
Huff.
about it and was like,
Imagine if he were good.
it would be awesome.
I
It'd be very good for them.
No, they'd win the Super Bowl by 30. It wouldn't even be a question.
Right.
Anyway, go ahead.
Vic Fangio was asked about it, and he was like, "Why didn't we play one snap?" And he was like, "Well, we had a good 3-man rotation going." It's like, wow. If only you were in control of the rotation, you could make that format.
That's his way of saying he's not good.
No, I know
enough.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like it's like the best excuse they can come up with.
Well, I don't think Vic's trying. I think
Yes,
Vic is
right.
purposefully saying he's not good enough.
I think that's
Yeah.
well, and it's very clear by the
Yeah,
snaps.
That's
too.
my point. Yeah.
All right, next one, AJ Brown versus Darius Williams. Last time they played, AJ
So you had it versus. Oh no. Okay. Go ahead. Good.
Yeah.
My fault.
Well, last time they played, AJ against them, 5 targets, 4 catches, 86 yards. AJ had a good game against the Rams. Remember, he had the touchdown. I think he actually did he have 2? Or he should have had 2 or something like that. He had at least 1. I remember that. Anyway, the Rams secondary, like we talked about on yesterday's pod, like young, intriguing guys, some good players. AJ, if he's AJ, and Devontae are better than their secondary players. So if that's the matchup they get, like they did in the first game, I think it's one they can take advantage
Did
of.
you know that Devontae Smith, I believe it's either 41 or 61. I think it's 61. Is 61 yards away from.
I think it's actually.
Is it 41? It was
No,
one of the two.
I think it's 6. I think it's
No,
smaller.
no,
than that.
no,
Maybe
no.
I okay. Maybe I misread
Yeah.
the number.
I think it's 41. Then maybe it's one of
Okay.
these. But either way, by the end of this playoffs, if they keep playing, like even in this next game, Devontae Smith could become the all-time Eagles postseason receiving leader in yards.
Well, it really shows how good they've been.
Well, it
like, and
shows how good
Devontae's
they've
been awesome too.
and it also shows how they didn't have. First, I think it's that they've only really had one stretch in their time, except for these 7 out of 8 years where they made the playoffs like this, like
Right.
8 out of 10 or whatever it was with Andy, and they just didn't have receivers who were very good or here that long. Consistent. Deshaun was the one who was here the most, and he stunk in the playoffs.
Well, even the early 2000 teams like didn't
and they
have
also
the
didn't
main
make the.
guys.
But also, it's a flip where it's like they had bad receivers early, then. There was like the gap in between. Then they only make the playoffs a couple times with those Deshaun Macklin type stuff. So anyway, it is
No,
wild.
I mean,
Harold Carmichael, the current leader.
I mean, there's like a decent shot AJ and Devontae go down as the 2 best, like 1 and 2 in
Oh, yeah.
franchise history.
It's numbers wise. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to stay here for longer.
Yeah, I think they will though. Like, although there was like some AJ
To the Patriots thing, yeah.
buzz thing.
Well, so the Vrabel thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not.
I don't think they're gonna trade AJ.
Oh no.
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
Unless AJ says I want out.
I think the only like 2% chance they would trade AJ would be if they have concern about his knee long term and like the Patriots are willing to overpay. But I still don't think.
I don't think so.
It would take, I don't know, maybe 2 first-round picks.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Now if I was the Patriots, I would pay for AJ. Like, I think for the quarterback,
For the
getting him
quarter,
there,
I
it'd
agree.
be huge. But
Yeah.
I think the chances Eagles trade him are 1%,
All right.
if even that.
What's next?
All right. So the Eagles interior offensive line versus Brandon Fisk and Kobe Turner. So those are those 2. They are the pass rushing defensive tackles. They have combined 116 pressures with 16 and a half sacks. It's
Pretty good.
very good.
And they got Byron Young there too. As
Byron Young, the other edge. Like their
rotation,
defensive
yeah.
line is legit. Now, if it was any other team, basically, we would be talking about this as like, it could wreck the game. I just don't think the Eagles offensive line will get wrecked. I'd be very surprised. Now, I do feel better about the tackles on this team than the interior, and that's only slightly. Like they're all very, very good. But what do I think is more likely? The defensive tackles get consistent pressure up the middle, or the edges get consistent pressure. I think it's more likely that the defensive tackles get consistent pressure. And for what it's worth, I think you could argue that's a worse way to allow pressure. Like right up the middle, Jalen sometimes isn't great with dealing with pressure. He leaves the pocket too early. So that would be a concern of mine, is if these 2 tackles start to win, and not to mention the running game. Now, they ran all over the Rams last time, so I think they'll do it again. But my concern would be the defensive tackles getting pressure.
Sure. Again, I can't get too worked up over a Eagles O-line matchup.
Exactly, but
Yeah.
it's just hard to find. Like,
no, wait, I get it. I get
Yeah.
it. You're trying to find a way where there could be a weakness that makes sense. That is the tackles have been so good.
Right.
And also you already put Verse. So like we're basically saying that
It's
you're
basically the
basically saying with
defensive
two
line,
of
yeah.
your 5 matchups, the most important thing is the O-line versus
Yeah, and I mean that's what it'll come down to.
Yeah.
If they win the battle at the line of scrimmage with their offensive line, like they could win this game by 20 points, especially if it's gross out.
Yeah,
But
and they're gonna. All right, what's next? Last one.
that was 5.
That was 5?
That was 5.
Wow.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep.
Wow. Bad job by me.
Well, counting.
I
should have said numbers, I guess.
I haven't been counting this whole run. I've been really struggling with the counting. All right, you got anything else on the Birds?
Still feeling confident?
I think they're gonna win by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still feeling
Honestly,
confident, too.
so
I'm almost trying to talk myself.
It's the reverse of last week where I am getting more. Honestly, you know what I thought today is it's not the same level, but I do kind of feel like the Giants in 2022. Like the Rams are better. I don't feel again. I'm not.
No, it's a similar feeling.
But it's like where look, they could lose. Any given Sunday is a thing, and I believe in it and all that. I just would be so shocked. I would be so surprised. And obviously, look, it would be tough.
It's also
tough loss. I just would be shocked.
It's the one team I think they could have lost to in the playoffs where you would go like, that's a bad loss.
Yeah.
Like Washington, I think would be close because it's a divisional rival, but like Jaden Daniels is awesome. Like this is the one game, the Rams in Philly,
where it's like they're so much better than that.
It would end the season on such a bad note. And we are definitely in the camp of, like you have to win a Super Bowl. I get all that. But if they lose to the Lions, it's just a different type of loss. Than this would be.
So, I mean,
this would be such a crushing disappointment.
They've been so we always do, point differential, I think is a
right. Yeah, the Rams have a minus point.
Yeah, so that's where I was going to go. And we think it's a pretty good one. It's not perfect, or it'd be a pretty good idea. Like if you look at the best teams in the NFL, guess what? It matches up with the best point differentials. The Eagles are a plus 160 point differential this year. The Rams are minus 19.
Yeah, like
so the Eagles have scored 179 more points than their opponents compared to the Rams this year. I mean, that's a massive difference.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's just, so I'm still feeling very confident. I'm also at a point where I'm like, I'm definitely ready for the game to get. I'm ready to move forward.
Yes. Now, last week I was like, the moment that I was like, get me to the playoffs. This week, now I've reached it. One other thing I want to throw at you, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow because this is more of a bet parks when we're picking the games, but just to let it percolate because we all want Washington to win and the game to be here. It's the best thing for the Eagles.
Yeah.
Is there a small part of you that is like, and again, I want Washington to win. Right. I will root, but like a small party that's like, we've been waiting for.
Yes, of course. There's more than a small part of me.
Detroit. I want it to be like special and this.
I agree.
And it's like, there's a small part of me. I can't get more than small because I want to win the Super Bowl so bad. But like,
there's also more than a small part of me. Like, and you can
look. I think the NFL fans, they definitely would want.
Yeah, Eagles Lions is where it's always been going. I want to see it. I want to see it play out. We've talked about it so much.
No, it would feel great, but it would feel a small part. Be like, well, we
but
play Lions.
I also want to prepare everybody for this. If Washington beats the Lions, the talking point will then be, well, they did just beat the Lions.
Of course it will.
Right. So like.
Playing them for the third time. They know you so well.
Jaden Daniels is awesome.
They ain't going to be scared to come in here. If they won here, all that. Yeah. I know. All right, let's get to final. Some lists.
All right, so Tucker today, I was texting about the title for this, and he was like, people love lists. So it got me thinking, I think this might be the first time that I can remember in my list-making career.
Ooh, I love phrasing it as my list-making career. It really is.
Who I would argue are like the face of the main 3 teams, Jalen, Embiid, and Bryce. Like you can, Jalen's the quarterback. Joel,
I get it.
Like
I get what you're saying.
Right.
Yes. I think in 2022 this would have hit harder.
Yeah. Well, no. I don't know if any of them are a top 5 athlete in the city right now.
Oh, I see where you're going.
I think Bryce probably
is. Yeah.
So here's the 5 I had, and tell me who you think might, and who you would disagree with.
So Saquon.
So the order I have is Saquon.
Yep.
Zach Wheeler.
Yep.
AJ Brown.
Yep.
Bryce Harper.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put Jordan Mailata.
So I would put Harper higher still.
That's what I was debating.
Yeah, I would still put Harper. Like I would still put Harper above Wheeler, but like I get it.
Yeah, I mean Wheeler is pretty.
So my list would go Saquon 1, Harper 2 right now. I would probably go Wheeler 3. I agree. I think AJ. I mean, honestly, I think Jalen Carter would be probably
Jalen was
my
one
fifth.
I considered.
Yeah, I think I would probably. I think he is. I might even put him up AJ. Like I think arguably then you get into Zach Bond has to be at least discussed, but I think Jalen Carter because of the pedigree. I think I would put Jalen Carter in my top.
Well, and
how about the fact that like we're not even discussing a sixer.
single.
It's not
No,
even a
that's where I was going
question.
with next. Like
Mishkov.
Mitchkov.
mentions-
If I did my top 10, I would probably put Mitchkov in there.
I think in a few years Mitchkov gets there. He's not there yet, but I'm really excited about the kid. He's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean the fact that he's and I know we're betting on his future in this list, but like he's a rookie that's awesome. He's the best player on the Flyers, I'd assume. I don't know any other players.
I don't think he
like,
is, but I think he's up there.
He's the most valuable player.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
By much.
But yeah, I mean, Jalen's in the top 10, I think. And I think if Jalen wins a Super Bowl, that helps. Like when you're the quarterback of a Super Bowl.
Yeah. I don't know if he's in the top 10 in a vacuum in terms of just by position, because like Lane Johnson's a better right tackle.
I agree with you on that.
So like it's hard to judge it, but I agree with you in terms of the importance of quarterback and what it means. You'd have to
but
elevate
like
it.
Joel, definitely not in the top 10 anymore. Right? Like
anymore.
Maxey, maybe. But like Maxey's
Maybe.
been a little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah.
It certainly isn't Paul George.
Man, it's wild. It's a list of Eagles and Phillies. That's
And
for
what's
sure.
crazy
Heavy
is
on the Eagles.
Yeah, for 2 or 3 years, it felt like it was. I mean, think about 2022. We probably had so many debates about Harper, Embiid, Hurts in some order.
Oh,
right?
without a doubt.
And now it's like
on the morning show
like
about it. Yeah.
Bryce probably belongs in there, but also the disappointment of last year. Like so it's on one way.
I like this final thought.
It's a strong time for Philly athletes because I think there's so many players you could
But it's
argue are in
also
the
a
top
bit of
10.
a down.
But it's kind of like, it's a parody that maybe isn't great.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good. You're right though. I think it's a really good
Yeah.
point. I mean, especially Joel. Jeez Louise. All right. Book club time.
All right.
I will plow through these. I will be very quick. I know that most people probably don't care. And if you don't care about books, I'm sorry, you don't care about books, Tucker?
Oh, I thought you were going to say leave.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were going to tell people to stop listening.
Why would I tell someone to stop listening? Don't leave. Hang out with us. You know, you might miss something hilarious at the end. You never know.
Totally.
You know, I don't know if it matters. Do we need people listening the way? I appreciate it. It means a lot
Be
to me.
helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, do it for us.
Yeah.
Also, like, it's reading. It's good for you.
It is.
All right. So I've mentioned before a few books like Red Rising. The Red Rising books are amazing. Silent Patient, I mentioned, is a great one. Three Body Problem is
So
a great
this
trilogy.
list is your favorite books of this year?
Of
or
the
all
last
time?
couple years that
Last
I've read.
couple
Since
years.
the last time I really like recommended some books on here.
Okay.
And I mentioned the Stormlight Archive, which is the 1330
Right.
page book. Okay. I'm gonna go really quick. Project Hail Mary is a great book. It's by Andy Weir. Have you heard of The Martian?
I'm not.
The movie with Matt Damon? You never heard
Oh,
of it?
yeah.
Okay, so the guy who wrote the book The Martian that the movie was based on, this is his newest book called Project Hail Mary. Awesome book. It has the coolest beginning to a book I think I've ever read. Really, really neat. It's sciencey, but like I hate science. You know, I'm not a science guy.
Right.
I don't hate science. I love science. I'm bad at science.
Yes.
I could understand it all. It wasn't too sciencey.
Very few people are good at science.
except
say.
for
Scientists,
scientists and
yeah.
doctors.
No, I agree,
and all
right.
that. Yes. I think very few people is not true. I think it's that there are people like us who are better at English or history, or whatever,
Right.
Then there are other people who are more science. Like Emily is way better at science than she is at history or whatever. So
yeah.
Anyway, all right. So this book made me bawl my eyes out at the end.
All right.
It's called "Then She Was Gone" by Lisa
I mean,
Jewell.
sounds like a sad.
It's
title.
like a mystery type book, but especially if you have a kid, you're
Sounds
gonna
like
cry.
maybe she's gone.
Yeah, it's a very good book. But again, some of these are tough reads. You know. By the way, if you're into mysteries and thrillers and stuff, Michael Connelly, Harlan Coben, Robert Craze. If you're like into detective ones, I've read every single book they've ever written. I've never mentioned. Okay. I just read this trilogy. It's pretty good. It's called the Chaos Walking trilogy. They made a movie of it. The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Nass. First book. Really good. Basically, it's like a new planet type thing. Like, you know,
Are these all 1,300 pages or something?
No, none of them are. None of these are. These are all normal books.
Right.
Anyway, Chaos Walking is very good. All right. At the end, I'm going to do my favorite, but it's with an asterisk. All right. Sea of Tranquility. This is actually a really quick read. It's by Emily St. John Mandel. Did you see the TV show Station 11? Either of you see
Yes,
Station?
it was very good.
The woman who wrote the book Station 11. This is another one of her books. Sea of Tranquility. Like a beautiful book.
I wonder if they'll make a show about it.
It's short. I doubt it. If anything, I think it's a movie more than a
Right.
show. Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. It's basically a reverse Groundhog Day. That's all I'll say.
That's all he's giving away.
Pretty
with that
neat
one.
idea, though. Let me tell you.
All
Pretty neat idea. The Patient's Secret by Loreth Ann White. It's based on a real murder story. It is dark. Like it's great. This is a dark book.
So I did watch the trailer for Red Room.
Red Rooms. Yeah.
Seems pretty dark. Didn't watch it, but
Twisted,
seemed pretty,
right?
Yeah.
I told you it was.
Seemed like maybe
Great.
not
Spike watch.
not a kid's movie.
Spike watching.
Seems right up
loved it.
Spike's.
He
It was so
loved
funny. I saw the tweet and I was like,
There we go. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then, so I have 2 more to go. Again, these are just the last couple years. If anyone wants to tweet at me, I will respond to book tweets. I respond to nothing else. If you tweet me about books, I will respond.
He's in.
I'm in. Okay. So 2 last ones. The one is actually the book I'm reading right now, which after the long one, I started this and it's amazing. Like I absolutely adore this book. It's called An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green.
All right.
Just a phenomenal book. Like I can't recommend it highly enough. A really super cool idea. I won't give it away. It's every single book on here is fiction. Every single book. I read to get away, to turn the brain off, to enjoy.
I like biographies better.
I know you do. I know you do. It's a different thing. All right, this is my last one. Again, this is with an asterisk, and it's a big asterisk. In that these are so it's part of a trilogy. I've read the first 2. They are the best fantasy books I've ever read. Period. End of story. They're better than Game of Thrones. They're better than the Brandon Sanderson stuff. They're the best ever. That's not fantasy. Come on, dude. Pull it together.
You wouldn't call Harry Potter fantasy?
No.
Okay.
No. Like Tolkien is fantasy and stuff like that. Like magical stuff is different. Like it's like, I don't know if it's like considered magic, whatever it's considered, but it is a different thing. Harry Potter is not technically fantasy.
Okay.
I mean, maybe like the loosest definition of it. We're talking fantasy. People understand who read what I'm talking
about. Right. All
right. But I do love Harry Potter. I think it's the greatest story ever told. So the thing is, the first 2 books are the best books I've ever written. It's called In the Name of the Wind is the name of the first book. It's The King Killer Chronicle by Patrick Rothfuss. Here's the issue. The first 2 books, the best 2 fantasy books I've ever read. The guy hasn't written the 3rd book yet, and it's been 12 years.
I don't think it's coming.
He says he's going to. It's like a George R.R. Martin thing. Like, so here's the thing. If you want to read 2 books and not know if you're ever going to get the 3rd, but those 2 books are so freaking amazing. Like, you can't stop reading them. Then do it. But I understand it is incredibly unfulfilling to be waiting for this book for a long time. I feel bad for people who read the book originally. I read it like a year ago, and I was like, wow, it's been a really long time. Imagine waiting right after.
So wait, is it a cliffhanger?
Like the story's not finished.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not like it is a trilogy. It was always meant to be a trilogy. He's telling a story in 3 books.
Right.
The 3rd book's not here 12 years later. So I don't know if it'll ever be here. He might have. So there is like, I'm sure if once he dies, someone will finish it. That's what always happens with these things, like Wheel of Time with Robert Jordan. Ironically, Brandon Sanderson, the guy who finished it. But like, he has a draft. He's got all this stuff. I'm sure it'll get finished someday. But all I can say is the first 2 books are unbelievable. And if you're all right not knowing when the next one comes, it's worth it.
Would you either A, never have a 3rd book come, like never, or B, have him tweet out the ending in less than 140 characters?
No, you can't do that with this. Like, I would rather never.
You'd rather
there's no. It's not that kind of ending. You're with the story.
No,
like,
I'm
not
just,
like there's no like. You can't, like, there's too many things go. It's a fantasy book. It's like huge. Like these books
all right,
are
so
long.
let's say 2 paragraphs. Like, would you rather?
No, I would rather read.
You'd rather not know.
It's about the book. This guy's one of the best writers I've ever read.
Right.
Like,
I just curious how bad you
it's all about the way the guy writes. So no, I wouldn't. But so we'll see. We'll see on that one. Please finish the freaking book, Patrick. Please.
How old is he?
I don't know. I would feel such a crippling anxiety of knowing that my story wasn't finished and that these people were out there waiting.
Seems like he doesn't care.
No, that's the issue. And I feel kind of bad for him. Apparently he's a perfectionist or whatever. And the first 2 books were such massive hits and such a big thing that he's like crippling anxiety about finishing the story perfectly.
Right.
And that's been the issue.
Well, he's just building up the anticipation.
Just put the book out.
I agree.
Yeah. All right.
Or tweet it.
Read books like AJ Brown.
Unless you're on the sideline.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be back tomorrow. Parks Picks Pod Saturday, 1 to 3. WIP. Massive show on Saturday. And then, of course, Sunday, the moment the game ends, 6:30, whatever it is, we'll be live on YouTube. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.